Season 3 is coming at breakneck speed. Epic keeps dropping teasers in absolute bunches. And from the looks of it, it's going to completely flip this entire chapter upside down. With the latest biggest update of the year, it is honestly a total game changer that overhauls the mechanics while dumping a ton of new items into the mix. The highlight is definitely the Overwatch collaboration. For starters, there's this Mythic staff that acts like a portable hospital. It heals you or your teammates, and the best part is that you can keep attacking while the healing does its thing. We also got Tracer's iconic pulse pistols, which give you insane mobility. They even have a rewind ability that zips you back to wherever you started shooting from. And that's a huge W for Epic. I literally talked about that in my last video and was skeptical if they were actually going to pull off this mechanic. So not gonna lie, I'm more than happy. Beyond the collab items, we're seeing the return of the shield from Chapter 4, and this is really just the tip of the iceberg. Now, the Overwatch ship is hanging out right next to the battle bus, and Mercy is set to land on a helipad. Once she's down, you can hire her as an NPC, and she'll likely follow you around providing constant heals with her staff. On the flip side, for those siding with the Ice King, there's an Overwatch payload anomaly you'll need to defend. If you manage to escort it to the finish line, you're looking at some solid rewards. The rest of the updates are pretty easy to wrap your head around, regardless of which side you're on. We've got Overwatch loot boxes, which are basically the new chests, and a fresh graffiti tag for your locker. You can find these new chests in the Overwatch-themed map locations, like Hanamura, which has taken over the plushie factory. And honestly, this one is my favorite. I originally loved the Hanamura map in Overwatch, so seeing this in Fortnite warms my heart. Also, it gives off strong Oninoshima nostalgia vibes, so you guys definitely need to pay it a visit. It's a smaller spot, but it's definitely packing that collab loot. The same goes for the new Busan drum area, and while King's Row has replaced Tilted Tower Avenue, the layout is mostly the same except for a few decorations and a hidden chest. But there's also the iconic bus taking its place. And for sure you can meet Tracer here. You can hire her as well. Plus, the Foundation is currently building a massive site for the upcoming final event, though it's still a work in progress. As you probably noticed in the trailer, 4 collab characters are appearing as NPCs, but they're also hitting the shop. If you're planning on picking them up, I'd really appreciate it if you used my creator code to support the channel. The game is a bit buggy right now as I'm making this video, so some of these features might be acting wonky, but leakers are saying those pistols can be tossed into the sky to literally make it rain gold. One thing I can confirm is that for the pistols, there's no first-person view as was promised in the trailer, so some movement feels really weird, but I've enjoyed using them so far. We're also seeing a new Dark Voyager style, and something tells me he'll show up in this form during the final event, or right when he starts gathering the 0 point. The poor guy got so obsessed with the idea that it looks like he's turning into a full-on cube being, or maybe you have a better name for him? Let me know in the comments. Also, as we get closer to the epilogue and the final event, countdown timers will appear for both Team Ice King and the Foundation. So make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these major story updates, because from the looks of it, we're in for something grand. We're also getting something for LEGO Batman, though the exact design is still a mystery. It's likely tied to the new game hitting the Epic Store on the 22nd. Since we already have plenty of Batmans, I have a theory this one might be the Michael Keaton version. Maybe you can call me a dreamer, but I've been begging for it forever. At the same time, the changes to Zero Build are so massive, it feels more like a new chapter than a mid-season patch. From the second you jump in, you'll notice you now spawn with a pistol, a shield potion, and a pocket item. These pocket items, like shockwaves, bubble shields, or healing mist, occupy the button usually reserved for building. You'll start every match with one and can swap them out at vending machines. Mobility got a huge buff too. You can now manually cut your glider whenever you want after jumping from the bus, but don't forget to pull the chute or you'll faceplant and get eliminated immediately. You can also redeploy your glider from high spots throughout the match. Even if you do fall, you won't die instantly. In both Zero Build and Battle Royale, you'll be left with at least 1 HP, though you'll be stuck in a slow, getting up animation to keep things fair. Zero Build also got some defensive buffs. Trees and rocks now have way more health so you can take cover for longer, and they've added smoke bombs to the loot pool for extra protection. Reboot times at the van have been slashed, so you can get your squad back in the fight faster, and you now have infinite sprint as long as you're holding your pickaxe. Siphon is also making a comeback for Zero Build as a trial run to see if it makes the mode more fun. Most of these changes are experiments, so they might not stick around next season, depending on how the community reacts. Oh, and they also squashed a mountain of bugs in this patch. Meanwhile in OG, the 0 Point Vault event is drawing near, though we're still guessing on the date. Dark Voyager will likely pay a visit once again before that happens. In any case, something tells me things are going to go with a different scenario, or it's going to confirm my theory about 2 0 points existing at the same time. But more on that in a bit. Now we're going to hit the heavy lore section, and let me start with the new heroes who arrived on the island and where they even came from. If you aren't familiar with Overwatch, just think of them as the multiverse's original 7. They're a group of elite protectors from a future Earth that already survived its own apocalypse, and now they're here to make sure the island doesn't suffer that same fate. To understand why these heroes are such a big deal, you have to look at where they came from. Imagine a world about 30 years from now where humanity had peaked. We created Omnics, these ultra-intelligent robots that were supposed to do everything for us, building cities, cooking meals, you name it. But, as it usually goes in every sci-fi movie ever, the AI got a little too big for its boots. In the middle of that total chaos, a strike team was formed called Overwatch. It was led by guys like Jack Morrison, who you might know as the Soldier 76, and Gabriel Reyes, the Reaper. They were the best snipers, engineers, and scientists. They ended the war, but the peace didn't last. Internal drama and secret Black Ops missions eventually made the public turn on them. The government banned them, and for years, these heroes were basically outlaws. Right now, to help us deal with the reality collapse, specific heroes have officially answered the recall. And we need them, because just like I suspected before, the elites from our universe took a massive L. They couldn't stop the Voyager, and he snatched the last 0 Point fragment right out of their headquarters. Now he's got all 7 shards of the 0 Point in his hands. He already merged 4 of them in the lab, and then just completely went ghost. Considering all the shards are already on the island, the fact that Voyager just vanished is super sketchy. Given what this guy is capable of, it's actually pretty terrifying. He didn't even teleport back to the OG where we expected him to go. He went somewhere else entirely. Drop your theories in the comments on where you think he's hiding. Most likely, Voyager will start activating the 0 Point in the very next update. It looks like the Overwatch team is going to be our backup here, since they've already got experience stopping world-ending threats. Either way, Voyager is going to start assembling the 0 Point next week, and the island is literally going to start cracking at the seams. Jonesy says that resurrecting the 0 Point takes a crazy amount of energy, and he's naively hoping that Voyager just doesn't have a power big enough to pull it off. But I think we've all realized by now that the Cubehead is playing 4D chess and is several steps ahead of us. While we're sitting here talking about it, Voyager and his interdimensional harvester are already on the home stretch of his plan. I'm hyped to see how the Overwatch heroes fit into this storyline, especially since we know Tracer, Diva, and Genji are headed straight for our island. Another interesting detail is that after the Cube guy stole the shard from the elite stronghold, a second rift opened up on the Golden Coast. This crack appeared right next to the new sawmill where the elite outpost is now located. It seems like Jules realized that if Voyager isn't stopped right now, the multiverse is toast. Remember how Jules secretly snuck onto the Cube guy's ship and made it to the Battle Royale island? Well, she took it a step further. It looks like after she hitched a ride behind Voyager's back on his own ship, she was the one who opened that rift to bring in the elite outpost. You've got to give the girl credit. Now she's teaming up with Jones, Hope, and the Seven to develop a secret weapon. She's likely building a device that can brick Voyager's ship, even if it's only for a minute. Back at the end of last season, when the Voyager activated only 3 shards, his harvester overloaded and went into literal safe mode. Our heroes are probably trying to pull a similar stunt, but it turns out Jones has an ace up his sleeve. He hinted to the team that he's planning to call in an old friend, though even he isn't sure if it's the right move. He says his friend is extremely dangerous and unpredictable, but despite all that, he trusts her. The Foundation is definitely not going to be a fan of this move, because as you probably guessed, Jonesy is talking about Dr. Sloan. All these breadcrumbs from the devs feel like a direct teaser for Sloan showing up at the final event. The Seven are going to be tilted for sure, but they don't really have a choice anymore. According to a new report, the scientist and the original visitor were dissolved in the chrome. In other words, they're gone. In a situation like this, any extra help is more than welcome. While everyone is staring at the sky, we've kind of forgotten about the Ice King, which is a huge mistake, because he is absolutely fuming that the Foundation escaped. The king is ready to do whatever it takes to drag the rock back. But the Foundation isn't playing around either. He's planning to end the king once and for all. The Foundation is so locked into this idea that he's actually starting to scare his own team instead of the enemy. Jones and Order are trying to keep him focused on the main goal, but it's like he has total tunnel vision. Writing off the king right now would be a massive blunder, especially since data miners just found something in the latest update that makes things way more interesting. It turns out that in the throne room, hidden behind a frozen skull, there's a secret room with an ice pillar right in the center, exactly like the one the Foundation was trapped in. Since this spot is so well hidden, there must be something incredibly important inside, either for gameplay or, more likely, for the lore. I think this time there might be another story character or something else locked away in that secret vault. Something that will finally pull back the curtain on Season 3. There are a ton of possibilities here. Doctor Doom, or even the Cube Queen. Let me know your best guesses in the comments. One thing is for sure, things on the island are accelerating fast, and prep for the final event starts any day now. The cube-headed guy is openly prowling through all the familiar realities hunting for 0-point shards. First, he suddenly crashed into Fortnite OG, where his Dark Harvester was scouting right at Loot Lake, staring straight into the center of the POI. Then he left the island, but the devs already dropped a spoiler that Voyager will be back to finish his business. What kind of business? I'll get to that a bit later. But what surprised me the most is that Voyager even made it to save the world, where he completely turned home base upside down. It was exactly because of his rift that some of the residents got spat out into Battle Royale. Now they're trying to find their way home, helping the Foundation fight the Ice King along the way. After terrorizing Save the World and finding absolutely nothing, Voyager bounced over to Reload, which is where he snatched the final 0-point shard. Meanwhile, the drama in the main storyline between our heroes is only picking up steam. After the Foundation returned to the island, his bromance with Jonesy noticeably cooled off. Jones says the leader of the Seven has been super angry lately and needs help. To be fair, the Foundation has always been a pretty rough dude with a short fuse, to put it mildly. But to distance himself this much from the bro he used to fist bump? It looks like something serious actually went down between these two that we aren't being told about yet. One thing is clear though, our blonde boy is pretty bummed out about it. I mean, not too long ago, he was basically obsessed with the Foundation. By the way, dropping a comment under this video will definitely help cheer him up. But getting back to the main conflict of this season and why it's happening. Aside from the fish stick and octopus beef, the most mysterious and interesting character arc of Season 2, in my opinion, is the story of Dasha and Jules. They used to be friends, and now they're ready to rip each other's throats out. So what happened between them? Many of you probably remember that after Midas was defeated and the device was destroyed, Jules started working for the Imagined Order, becoming one of their engineers. That's most likely where she met Dasha, who was an IO agent at the time. And it seems like they actually had a pretty solid, warm friendship. However, apparently because Jules ended up leaving the Order, Dasha held a major grudge and now really wants to play some games with her old friend. Granted, these games don't seem very safe and are going to cost Jules a pretty penny. After all, you need some high-tier gear to protect yourself from a crazy ex-friend. That's exactly why Jules is crafting such overpowered weapons for us.
Jules is working on some tech that might help us turn the tide.
Long story short, Jules has everything under control. While we're out here playtesting her new tech, the frost and cold are completely swallowing up the always sunny Golden Coast. Honestly, the appearance of the Ice King took a lot of people by surprise, but the most curious loopers started asking, is this the exact same Ice King from Chapter 1? I hope I don't shatter anyone's reality here, but this Ice Boy is a totally different version of the King. See, in the Zero War comic arc, the Ice King wasn't just some random guy. He was a legitimate protector of the multiverse. Alongside certain knights, he traveled through dimensions, tracking down dangerous creatures and artifacts and sealing them away in his castle so nobody could use them for selfish gains. Obviously, he was working for the greater good. The current king, on the other hand, is some kind of possessed insane ruler who genuinely believes he's the strongest being in the entire multiverse. Plus, we know from the comics that the Lord of Ice is dead, or at the very least, buried forever under the remains of the Ice Moon. So where did this possessed doppelganger come from? It's actually pretty simple. This guy, just like the new visitor, comes straight out of an alternate reality in Fortnite OG. Because one of this king's styles is identical to the one from the OG Season 7 live event. So it turns out that Voyager pulled this Ice Boy from the past into the present and is now using him for his own agenda. What exactly is that agenda? Don't touch that dial and you'll find out. A lot of people, if not everyone, have no idea who the Elites are. This is a new organization that's going to play a massive role in the storyline of this entire chapter, and really the whole future of Fortnite lore.